Hey, Derek, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brian. So my name's Derek Cahill, currently serving as an area vice president at Gartner, supporting education and commercial clients across America and Canada. I've been at Gartner for about 3 years and in sales and sales leadership for just about 11.
Cool. How'd you get into sales?
So following some of your LinkedIn posts, it seemed like the best thing to hop into right away if you want to make some money.
Yeah.
So I actually got started doing door-to-door sales down in Southwest Florida as something that just kind of stumbled upon.
Yeah. How did you like that?
Oh, door-to-door sales. You know anything about it?
I can't imagine
Hot.
anything worse. I'd
Yeah,
rather cold call all day.
it definitely taught me how to overcome a no and move right on to the next. That's
Yeah.
that's for sure.
How long did you do that?
Just about a year.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where, as long as you're still there in 30 days, it's pretty easy to move into leadership. So that's where I found myself. I didn't quit right away. Actually, did really well for myself in that role, but did end up leading the office for about 11 months until I was able to not have to walk around in the hot sun every day of my
Oh,
life.
Florida. Yeah. And how did you go from that to like Gardner? Because that's a completely different sell, right?
Yeah, it's a really cool journey looking backwards. Have you ever heard the quote from Steve Jobs? You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back.
Yeah.
So I think I'm like the testament of that. Just a journey of sticking to it, sales leadership, and really just grinding it out. So I went from door to door. I actually did a second stint in door to door over in the Miami side, but I only did that for a month, and it was time to move on. But I actually launched a wireless division inside of a CompUSA. They were trying to copycat the Best Buy thing.
Yeah.
Did several years of inside sales experience from varying levels of professional, and I got started my own company in 2016, doing tech support, and I think that was the big catalyst for me.
Yeah.
I made the decision that I had to jump. I had to go do something different because I found myself in this sales rut. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, where it's the same thing over and over again. The ceiling is right there, um, and I decided to just jump. Motion causes motion. I did that
Yeah.
for about a year and a half, and towards the end of that, I got recruited by Gartner.
And a lot of people in B2C don't think it's possible to move into B2B, and they
Yeah.
don't understand the difference.
Well, I think it's, when you're doing B2C, your customer is
It's right
easy to
there.
define. It's
Yeah.
you. I'm going to sell to a person. Everyone needs a cell phone. Everyone needs a computer. Everyone needs a car. So I think when you start thinking of business to business, it's like, well, who is that person? Who am I going to be selling to? It's actually not a big jump at all. Still selling to people.
Yeah, you are, but the decision-making process is much different.
Much more complex it can be. Yeah.
Complex. Yeah. And I was, equated to, when you go to lunch by yourself, it's pretty easy to decide.
Yeah.
You add one more person, it doesn't just go up twice as hard. It's like four times harder. You add a third person, and all of a sudden, half the lunchtime is spent. You want Italian, you want Indian, you want Chinese, you want a sandwich. And
And then you end up eating a bag of nuts.
right, then you end up just talking, and all of a sudden you run out of time.
Yeah. I think the average, what is it? The average sales cycle right now, B2B, is like 7 people involved. I think it is 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, and people think it's approval. No, it's really either consensus and opinion sometimes. Is that the people are always reaching out to either build consensus or get others' opinions. Do I do this or do I do that?
Yeah, I think that's the one thing you run into a lot is when I'm selling to you, Brian, and you're an individual,
Right.
you are the yes man. Sometimes you'll run into it when you're working with even if it's a senior leader at the organization, they'll want someone to scream, yes, go buy that.
Yeah.
And you don't always get that. Sometimes, you do what you want and it's still tough to make the decision.
Make the decision and execute on it
Yeah.
from an administrative standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because then you just get so many more different channels to run through.
Right. And every time you get a little bit of resistance, you cannot always be the person that champions it. You got to have your client do that. And they need to
Yep.
know how to do that and want to do it and have a big reason why to do it.
Oh yeah. It's not. You can buy something emotionally, But when you're working with a business, there's the emotional element for sure. Someone's going to want something, but they can't go to their CEO or their CFO with pure emotion. They've got to have that kind of full package baked out. And that's probably one of the biggest jumps from going B2C to B2B
Yeah.
is you've got to make sure you've got your box tightened up and ready to be delivered.
And what was that first year like at Gartner? Was it hard? Was it overwhelming? Or
It was different. So there's definitely a learning curve. If you know anything about Gartner, you're
a
selling
lot? Yeah.
insight, right?
Right.
You're not selling one
A
product that
thing.
you get to know and love and do over and over again. So that's actually really interesting, and I think helps sharpen your sword. But you're just surrounded by really intelligent people that went to great schools, and you walk into there, and it's like, oh my goodness! Like I was 27 at the time. I did not go to a great school,
Yeah.
so there was that period of time where I was like, what am I getting myself into? But once you get settled in and realize, it's still a people business and you can use the tools and that you've gathered over the years, I moved really quickly. I was in the account executive role for 8 months and got promoted into a leadership position.
Wow. And what caused that?
That early promotion,
Yeah.
I think it's a testament to the previous experience that I came into Gartner with. So I was an atypical hire back then. I was 27. I had 2 kids. I was married. Was in the middle of buying a house. And I think it comes down to that why. Why do you come into work every day? So when I walked into that office, I knew every single day what my mission was.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy for me to deviate. I had my mission. I was like a dog with a bone. Took care of my clients. I knew exactly what I needed to do to win. And the senior, it's cool because it's inside sales in the division that I'm in. So when people see you, so it's really easy to start building that brand and accelerate real quickly.
And what was your job? Was it to get meetings for the outside reps, or was it to get them to come to a conference or an event? Or
So it's full cycle,
yeah.
at every channel. So it's generating interest, managing current clients. Yeah, it's the full gambit of an account management cycle.
And then what was it like getting into leadership? Because then again, that's yet another level of complexity, and it's a very different job.
Yeah, that's actually where I felt most comfortable. Coming into Gartner, I just left my own company. I just decided to wind it down, and Gartner recruited me right at the perfect time. I knew leadership was the mission that I wanted to get back into, so I felt like I had my legs under me at that point. But it's just then it went to coaching newer reps and
Yeah.
newer people that are new to whether it's account management or sales or what have you, but just building confidence that they know what they're doing. And so it's sharpening their skills and helping them understand what great client relationships look like. But that is still my role, really, even in the area vice president role, but just upskilling and building confidence in the account management team.
And was it those personal commitments, the kids, the house? Uh, did that become your why?
So I guess it's two-sided. Of course, the way that I grew up, I didn't necessarily have everything and that like
You
clandestine,
didn't?
white pig.
No?
No, I didn't, Brian. Did you? I don't know who has it.
Well,
It's
we
not
had
me
a
though.
small helicopter. It
Yeah,
was.
yeah. So I think one of the big things for me, Brian, is I know what I don't want. And I think that makes it easy for me to grind because I've seen the other side. I know I have a crystal clear image of everything that I never want.
Right.
So, and my family bundles into that, so I think that makes me the provider that I am for them. So it's partial, I think they're a part of it, but it's also just past experience that I have a clear definition on both. What do I want and what do I don't want?
And how about as far as becoming a parent and being a manager? Because some of the great managers that I've seen also had pretty reasonable sized families. And that shift forces you to have that outward mindset because you can't complain at the kids, right? They're kids.
Well, you can, but
It doesn't go very
yeah,
far.
it doesn't. You don't frequently win. Yeah, I think it makes you're almost forced to be
Yes.
more. It's not about you anymore.
Right.
It's not about what I want and what I want to do. My life is sacrifice now. And it's at this point, it isn't even about going out at night anymore. That ended years ago. Sometimes my wife and I are lucky enough to get out, but I would actually. So I think that helps the click. To
Yes.
start having that mindset shift. But it's funny in my last couple of years. I've started realizing that I coach my people at work better than I coach my family. So it's made me start making a more deliberate approach to being a better father and husband and leader in my house as well. Like from a patient's perspective.
Yeah, because you you quit thinking about the carrot and the stick, and you start trying to understand what they're going through, and kind of start where they are and bring them up versus just work harder, or
Yeah, well,
you're not trying enough.
yeah, oh, yeah. And even that, like the last year or two has been just such growth for me in a lot of different areas. But one of the key things is people don't do the wrong thing on purpose.
And I
Uh,
don't. They're not like maliciously
yeah,
sabotaging your quarter.
so I think that that's one of the biggest, whether you want to call it a lesson learned or otherwise, is that you take them, where are you now?
Yeah.
And how can I help you get better? Rather than, oh, there you are now. It's a
Right.
mindset thing. Mindset's
Yeah.
huge.
Right. And it's not you, it's what was done and how
Yeah.
it was done and
And
how we
especially
can,
in sales, you
yeah,
never know
learn
where they're
from
coming
it.
from. You never who the last leader they had was. Maybe the last leader was not a dad, obviously, because we're the best. But they didn't upskill them or was always stumbling them down.
And so you enjoyed the leadership clearly because you've gone pretty far up within the
Oh yeah,
organization very fast. I
yeah.
mean,
I still love client engagement. I love reframing and resetting expectations. I love helping people see what they need, but I now love that I can help other people turn into that and see that different. Sales has that taste that a lot of people have, like the car salesman thing, and it's been really cool in my journey being able to help younger people getting into sales realize that that isn't what sales is.
not at all.
That's actually just car sales, not not when you get into like professional sales roles.
Right.
We can serve a purpose and really help people.
And it is both, well, the most challenging and the most rewarding,
Oh
because,
yeah.
even when you work with like a CEO who went to an Ivy League school and raised millions in venture capital, but they still don't know how to communicate in a meeting with a
Build
client.
culture. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a very interesting skill. Now, a lot of listeners are in your shoes where they're selling an intangible. It's not a physical product. It's not a something that someone uses interactively every day. It's how's it different for you? What's your approach? What have you seen work and not work?
Yeah, well, it's way harder.
Yes.
um it forces you to look at the intangibles, or maybe not the intangibles. It forces you to take a look at that big picture of what am I actually providing someone, because it's not a cell phone, it's not the 2019 Ford, that do you want this. You've really got to make sure that you're isolating, am I solving a problem?
Yeah.
Because if you're not solving a problem, everyone needs what you'll have. So every software company or whatever, you know at some point or another, you can make the case that they need what I have, but do they have the challenge that I'm going to help them overcome, or is it a nice to have? I think though, if I could boil it down, it's, are you a nice to have or a need to have?
Right. And and you can change that as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
Questions, digging, making sure that you are an expert, or, as close to an expert as possible at the problems that you are solving. Because sometimes it's just people don't know what they don't know.
Right. And that's our job, what I call selling the problem versus the service or the product.
Yep.
And being able to have that conversation that isn't about you and what you do, but what
Ugh.
they are either facing now or going to face if they don't take action.
Yeah, when you're selling like who you are and what you do, you're selling a reputation, and no
Right.
one buys the reputation. They know the reputation.
Yeah, or who cares? It's
Yeah,
all it's all nice,
simpler
but
way to put it.
it's a commercial versus a
Yeah,
conversation. And I think
it's
that's the
just like talking to you or you talking to me. It's do I know what package, whatever solution that I have to provide, but can I get you to uncover it yourself, or can I lead you to helping you
yeah.
figure out what it is that you need help with?
And
It's
the thing,
going in not knowing.
and that's it. And they do not want to face it a lot of times, right? Because you don't go to, at least guys don't go to the doctor that often unless there's something wrong. There's an
Yeah.
active pain. Women are smarter. They tend to go looking for latent pain. So it's not natural for a lot of people to want to face what is either a latent pain or a pain that's being ignored. But certainly with senior leaders, they don't want to be caught blindsided either.
Yeah, and the way I look at it, if you already know what the pain is, I'm already behind. Because if you've already identified what's wrong, now it's a commodity battle of,
Yes.
now it's they have to just pick which solution they're going to go with. I want to help someone figure out that, they have a pain that they're not aware of that's not going to really impact them for another year or two. But if they get ahead of it now, it will mitigate.
And and what's your approach to do that, or who have you seen do it really well? Because I'm sure you guys have got some rock stars.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing company to work for with a lot of great and smart people, but it comes down to going. It almost sounds counterintuitive, but going in without an expectation,
Yeah.
because you can't sell someone something before you know what you're actually going to solve for them. So the one thing with Gartner is, because we solve so many different complex problems, you've got to just know and be, trust in the fact that you can have a conversation. And if at the end of that conversation there's nothing wrong, thank them. I'll talk to you in 6 months and see, we'll talk to you again soon. But it's just going in there with the confidence that what some of the lagging indicators are, or if there's a lagging indicator, I know what the leading indicators are, and helping them realize, like, are you equipped to solve that, or are you not equipped to solve that? Because that's the key thing. Is the problem big enough to solve?
and and how do you get that, or what is the hardest part? Is it getting the initial conversation, that initial 30, 60 minutes, or is it once you're there, you did not predict the right one?
No, to what's going on, and make a recommendation, or start connecting those dots of, well, here's what I'm hearing across the marketplace. Here's some challenges that I've been seeing over the last, X amount of conversations I've had. How does that resonate with you? It's that it can be a little pokey,
Yeah.
but once you can arrive at, we're on the same page, just trying to get on the same page with your person.
And I can also see that meeting going well, but how do you keep the ball moving after that meeting? Because you're dealing with busy people who when I love when they say meeting to meeting all day long. It's like, when do you work?
Yeah.
But right, because now you just became one of 6 to 8 meetings they had that day, and all of a sudden the next day's busy. How do you keep the ball moving so that there is a next step?
Yeah, so I think that it's this perfect storm of just, continually staying in touch. So it shouldn't be hey, I'll talk to you in 3 weeks from now, because probably 3 days they're going to forget what we even talked about.
Yeah.
So it's got to be, staying close with touches and making sure that if we talk about a problem that they're having, putting a piece of research in front of them, giving them a resource that inspires them to know that this is real. This isn't like some pie in the sky thing. It's like, no, we're helping people figure this out every single day. But that's also the litmus test for how big of a problem it is. Because I know, Brian, you're hosting this podcast. If your microphone stops working, you're going to go get another one
Right.
immediately. But if it's okay and it's still working a little bit, you're not going to have the urgency to want to fix the problem. And that's the indicator for me internally. If someone doesn't want to meet in the next 3 to 4 days, I've got to start asking myself, all right, is this really a challenge that
Right.
is life or death for them? And that's the thing. And from a new account executive perspective, I don't think they want to see that. They don't want to think like, oh, maybe it's not a problem. It's like, no, Brian's going to talk to me. He just had to push for a week or two. And it can sometimes get perpetual.
Yeah, and I think you have to paint that vision so that the person is engaged in the future. Like if somebody came to me and go, well, I think I have a good idea of where I see podcasting going. And would you like to understand the next 3 to 5 years and get ahead of it instead of reacting to it?
Yeah, but you'd have to know the outcomes.
Yes.
Because if that was $100,000 investment, it might change your tune a little bit.
True.
Now I've got to really get into the nitty gritty of, hey, listen, Brian, if you don't start making the move in that direction, this isn't going to work out.
And from a sales career standpoint, what was some of the major epiphanies that you had where the lights went on?
Well, that's a heavy question. When you're doing like product or solution fits, I think there's no there's no replacement for just having a conversation. Like when
Yeah.
I'm talking to anyone now, I don't have that anxiety anymore, I think. And I know that's a collection of multiple conversation. It comes with experience. There's no way that listening to this podcast, like, oh, that's how you do it. It's just realizing that sales isn't forcing it down someone's throat until they buy it. It's seriously just talking. It's having almost like a friendship. Not to put it so like sappy and direct as that, but I could have a conversation with any chief information officer, chief executive officer, and it's not about the product, it's about the
Right.
problem. And if
Yes.
I happen to have a solution to it, it's saying, wow, let me help you.
Yeah. I think too many people and the client also forces us into the who you are, what you do, how much does it cost?
Oh yeah.
And that's the rep zone.
Yeah, when you're selling based on price, you're already losing. And I'll tell you, like, at Gartner, it's not the cheapest thing, but
Go
but we
figure.
solve the
Yeah.
but we solve the big problems. We have people that, hey, just tell me how much it is. It's like if we're just going to be a line, Gartner X dollars. I already know that we're behind the eight ball. It's got to be about the problems.
And when you probably observe some great salespeople there, what distinguishes that top 1% from the rest of the crowd?
Yeah, having the courage to uh, push back might be a little strong, but having the courage to know what good looks like, and actually then the second key trait is do it. So
Yeah.
knowing what good looks like and then actually executing on it, from just a human perspective, I've found always works out.
And where do you want to go with your career?
So I definitely have the entrepreneurial bone in me. From what I do now, leading people at Gartner, I have about a 20-person organization. Like I love it. I love the people that roll into me. I love being able to support them on a day-to-day basis. But business ownership, I'm sure, is in my future. Again, I
Yeah.
have a little chocolate company right now, Brian. So things are moving fast. But it just suffices that creativity in me. I'm a builder. I like seeing things, building them. Uh, and seeing what I can make happen.
And if you had to do your whole sales career over, what would you have done differently?
Well, it's tough because I think I'm in a really good spot right now.
But
I
you
don't.
probably could have got there a couple years earlier, right?
Yeah, but it's one of those things where those experiences that I've gathered, good and bad, have made me who I am, and I kind of like who I am right now.
Yeah.
I turned 30 last year, and I genuinely feel like it's gonna be the best decade of my life. So trust me, I've had my fair share of downs, and then even when I was at my downs, I had my fair share of downs. But I feel like that's one of the big things that a lot of people miss, is, or maybe not miss. You don't want to go out and have the downs, but the downs are the good stuff. I look at all those experiences that's what's built me into the person I am now.
And those are the lessons that stick with you.
And you can't learn them anywhere else other than
Right.
you going through them. Like, you can't hear my story and then now that's your story. Like you've got to feel those things. And I credit that to, I know what I don't want. And I think that's just as powerful as knowing what you do want.
Yeah, I call that an anti-mentor.
Yeah.
When you get
Yeah.
the people that you want to emulate, and then you see what you do not want to have.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not bad. That's good because that keeps you focused on what you need to do. And you know what happens if you don't do it.
Yeah. It's one of the, I said something, or I have kind of a mantra. It's embrace the suck.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times I look at when I'm going through moments of pain or, whatever, sadness for lack of a better term, I try my best to celebrate it because I know I'm here now. Now it's only going to get better. It's the
Yeah.
good times you got to be scared about because, oh, when's the next downturn going to come? What's laying around the corner?
And that's it. And it's like if you've ever been a runner, it's that first mile of warming up where all these excuses pop into your head, like, I think my knee hurts, or it's
Yeah.
getting cold, it might rain. And it's like, once you get through it, in the marathon, they call it the wall, but there's that resistance. And then all of a sudden you get into the flow state, and it starts to go.
Oh yeah.
And how do you coach your reps when they get those down points? Because sales is the biggest roller coaster
Oh
profession
yeah.
there is.
You
It's
just get
unlike
it's
anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I might oversimplify it, but it's simply like building them up to get back up. Failing's okay. and
Yeah.
kind of reiterating, like, it's impossible to break what we do, and really it's impossible to break anything that you'll ever do in one moment of failure, for lack of a better term. But I just coach it the same way that I believe it is. These moments that you're going through are going to make you better regardless. I've never been so exclusively focused on the career you have now. Like, the way I teach work ethic, the way I coach perseverance is, be the person, put the behaviors in today that you think you want to be in 10 years. So giving up right now is that leading indicator to someone you might be in 10 years. So take this lesson, learn it, and be better from it.
Cool. Hey, this has been a great
Seems to resonate.
conversation. Yeah. Well, where can people go to follow you and connect with you?
So I'm exclusively on LinkedIn. I think it's just /Derek Cahill. If you want to check out the chocolate brand I'm building, it's wickedbold.com.
Hey, are you from Boston?
I am from Boston.
Yeah. What town?
I'm actually going back for Thanksgiving. Lynn.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, my wife and I. So funny story that I'll leave you with, Brian, if we're wrapping up, is Bold is my family. So my wife's name is Brooklyn. My daughter's name's Ophelia, Landon with an L, and Derek. So Bold. And we decided to make some freaking chocolate.